everybody, I'm Kimberly Turner from cookingwithkimberly.com, and today I'm going to show you how to bake a pie crust. Now I'm doing a basic pastry crust, and I'm using it for a pumpkin pie today, so it's going to be for a sweet pie. There is a difference whether I'm going to do a savory one or a sweet one. So this is how I bake a pie crust. Okay, I'm going to start off with a mixing bowl, and I like to use more of a flat bottomed one so that I can use this pastry cutter a little easier, my dough blender. So I'm going to use 2 cups of flour. This is, you can use pastry flour or you can use all-purpose, whatever. This is a mixture of the two. Now this recipe is going to make 2 large pie crusts for me. I'm going to add a half a teaspoon of salt, 1 tablespoon of packed brown sugar, and I'm going to add 1.5 cups of shortening. Now, if you wanted to use lard, go ahead. If you want to use butter, you can. If you use butter, it's going to brown up a little bit more. You have to watch it in the oven. But otherwise, I'm using shortening. This is Crisco. And in order for you to get the Crisco out of these measuring cups, it's always a nice idea to just get them wet before you put the Crisco in, because oil and water don't mix. So it's easier to get out. Okay, so I'm going to use my pastry dough blender. It's one of these guys, and I'm just going to work that Crisco, that shortening, into the flour. And what I'm looking to do is make it into pea-sized pieces, okay? Little tiny pieces. So you have to just keep working it, and if you need to use your scraper, go ahead and get that out of there. And just keep working it until you have that consistency, which I'll show you in a second. You can always use a large fork as well for this. I recommend not using your hands because the heat of your hands will actually melt the shortening some, and that's not what you want. You want to maintain those little pea-sized pieces of shortening. That's what's actually going to give you that nice flaky consistency when you bake it. That's what you want, a nice flaky crust. So as those little pea-sized pieces of shortening melt, they create these little gaps in your dough, and that's what makes it flaky. In a small bowl, I'm going to crack 1 large egg, and I'm going to beat it with a little fork. Now that that's semi-mixed, I'm adding another cup and a tiny bit. Sometimes I use the pastry blender, sometimes I like this big fork. Mom uses this, and that's what I'm used to. So just work that through again. You want to get those little pea-sized pieces. It's going to feel like you're not going to be able to get that all mixed through, but don't worry, it will happen. Sometimes I feel like the fork gives me a little bit better control. So now basically I have crumbs, okay? Looks like crumbs. I'll show it to you. So you can grab it. It looks like crumbs, but when you press it together, it can hold a shape, okay? All right, I'm going to add my egg in. And all together, we're gonna add about 4 tablespoons of cold water. Now I put some cold water in a little bowl with an ice cube in it, so it stays nice and cold. You don't want this shortening to melt. Like I said, you want to maintain those little chunks. It's very important. So cold water, do 1 or 2 tablespoons at a time and work it through. Work another tablespoon and another tablespoon. So just test it by picking up some and seeing how it holds together. If you feel like it might need a little bit more, add a little bit more water, which is what I'm going to do, maybe half a tablespoon. Every day is a little bit different when you're doing baking with the atmospheric condition as well as your ingredients. And sometimes you need to improvise. I'm going to add another tablespoon of water here, maybe a tablespoon and a half. And I think that'll get us where we need to be. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm actually going to pour this out on my countertop at this point. And I'm going to separate it into a couple different discs. I just want to kind of push it all together. I'm going to cut this dough in half today because I'm going to do a little bit of a pattern on the top of my pumpkin pie, and I want to make sure that I have enough for that as well, that purpose. So just form these guys into balls. I'm just going to make them into little flat discs like this, put them in some saran wrap, and throw them in the refrigerator so that they can cool a little bit before I roll these guys out. So in plastic wrap, into the fridge. So I'm using a 9-inch pie plate, and I'm just going to put some bench flour down. Now my dough has been chilling, and I just want just enough flour on the bottom so it doesn't stick. A little bit of flour on your rolling pin. And I'm going to work this out into a disc shape, right? Your dough's going to be a little bit hard, and that was the whole point. So you're going to roll this out to about 1/8 inch, and you're going to just eyeball it and hope that it gets to be big enough to put in your plate here. And don't worry, because you can always do patchwork if you have to, and if you have to add a little bit more to a corner, you can go ahead and do that too. So I'm just going to roll this all out. We're going to do our best to transfer it now. So I'm just going to roll it onto my rolling pin. Now I'm just going to do a little bit of patchwork here as needed. Use the back of your knuckles to push that dough into the sides of your pie plate. I'm going to trim just the outsides here, and I'm going to use any of this that I need to use for patchwork. Now I'm going to just use this, use the edges and crimp them, following the pie plate. So that's how you make pie crust for the holidays. If you want to par bake it now, you can put it in a 350-degree oven for 10 or 12 minutes and make sure that it's nice and browned up. You want to make sure that you poke the bottom with holes so that it doesn't bubble up on you. Now, as I'm making a pumpkin pie today, I don't need to do that. This is going to actually bake all together with the pumpkin pie, and I don't have to do that. You just put the dough in raw just like that. Okay, well I'm going to show you one of the pies because I don't know if I'm going to do a whole another one tonight or not. If not, that pie crust is going to go straight into my freezer. And I'm going to save my pumpkin pie filling so I can make another pie tomorrow. So, let's get moving. I have a little egg wash here with egg white and a little bit of water beat in. And I'm just going to get this a little bit wet all over the inside of my crust. By the time I fill it with this filling, it's going to be a little bit dried out, and that's what I want. This is going to help seal this crust so that it doesn't get all soggy. Helps it just a little bit. Preheat your oven to 350 degrees. You're not going to par bake this. You don't need to do that. This is going to go in the oven for about 45 to 50 minutes. So it's going to cook the crust just right, just fine in there together, okay? I like to let that egg wash dry out just a little bit for a couple minutes before I put the filling in. I'm just going to make sure this is nice and stirred one more time. Now what you can do with your remaining dough is you can make a little design for the top. My mom sometimes makes it look like a pumpkin. Maybe I'll do that. Let's see. Let's see what I can do. Use a nice little sharp knife. Make yourself a pumpkin shape. I'll make some ribbing, some lines in it like it is a pumpkin. And I'll make myself a nice little stem for it. Float that right on the top in the middle. And a little stem for the top. And I'm going to use that egg wash quickly. And there you have it, into the oven. This pumpkin pie has been going for quite some time now. It's been going 50 minutes, so I'm going to check it here. So I'm going to show you this pumpkin quickly, this pumpkin pie. There you have it, folks, with a beautiful little pumpkin on it too. You can do that. You can do it yourself. So we're going to let this cool off, and then I guess I'm going to try this for you in a little while. Okay, our pumpkin pie has cooled down. I'm ready to cut it, and I've made my cinnamon whipped cream. We're ready to go. So let's cut this up. I hate to wreck it, but that's okay. We'll make another one soon. The pie is still a little bit warm. That's how I like it, so we're hoping for the best here. Oh, I did pretty good. So there's my pie. That's what I'm talking about. Clouds of fluffy cinnamon whipped cream and that beautiful pumpkin pie filling that we made from scratch from a pumpkin. Crazy good. The only thing left to do is to taste it. This pie is fantastic. Such a nice combination. Let's try some of this crust back here. Crunchy, light. And that's it. You can do it yourself all the way from scratch, all right? Follow me on Twitter at Cooking with Kim E with a capital E. Like the fan page at facebook.com/cookingwithkimberly. My shows are on ifood.tv/cookingwithkimberly, youtube.com/cookingwithkimberly, and you can find me syndicated on Roku. Come to my website at cookingwithkimberly.com and subscribe, interact with us, and let us know what's going down in your culinary world, all right? Be a champion in your kitchen and eat deliciously. Bye.